O'Hara, and you're at the O'Hara News and Editorial with myself and James Huff. Uh, Thanks for joining us tonight on this March 24th, 2015 edition of the O'Hara News and Editorial. James, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing just great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We have a couple of great stories for you here tonight. We have a special treat. Janet Bloomfield has written a piece called Top 20 Feminist Headlines that basically compares headlines to what maybe Joseph Goebbels would have written back in the 1930s for the Nazi Party, and we're going to play that later on this hour, and we're going to talk about a whole lot of other things. So we have some great news stories tonight for you. And the first one, the most important one, this was a big breaking news story yesterday. The Charlottesville, Virginia Police Department, which is where the University of Virginia is located, has decided, or they haven't decided, they actually basically came out and said that there was no evidence whatsoever that concluded that there was any kind of crime committed at all in at the University of Virginia in 2012, as the Rolling Stones article purported to say, and they basically came out and said it's all basically we can't. There's no evidence that anything wrong happened. And here's the article as it is read from USA Today that came out at 12:37 p.m. March 24th. Yes.
Can you turn off your camera, man? I mean, you got a pretty face and everything, but
yeah, but you want me to turn off? All right. Okay,
yeah, we're gonna conserve some bandwidth.
Okay, sure. Hold on a second. I thought I had it turned off. Sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry. That's my other Google Hangout page. Okay. Anyway, the article from USA Today reads, and this is from Gregory J. Wallace, published yesterday at 4:37. On Monday, the Charlottesville, Virginia Police Department announced that it was suspending its investigation of the alleged rape in 2012 at a fraternity party at the University of Virginia. The story was first reported last November as all but proven fact by Rolling Stone magazine, which has since acknowledged flaws in its reporting. According to the Charlottesville police, they were unable to corroborate the story of the alleged victim, known as, quote, Jackie. Indeed, the police could not find evidence that there was even an event at the fraternity on the night Jackie claimed to have been raped, although they could not rule out, quote, something terrible happened to Jackie. But the UVA incident says less about a journalistic rush to judgment than it does about a misguided federal policy to deter campus sexual assaults that is sowing chaos on campuses. Universities and colleges, as witnessed by the University of Virginia, have been in an impossible damned if you do, damned if you don't position ever since the U.S. Department of Education's announcement on April 4th, 2011, that under Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, any college or university receiving federal aid will be held accountable for failing to deter and punish campus sexual assaults. Currently, more than 100 universities and colleges are under investigation by the Department of Education for their alleged mishandling of sexual assault cases, up from 55 last May. That's just in under 7 months. It's increased by 100%, including schools along in the forefront of advancing women's rights and progress. Now, this was published in USA Today, and this was not a commentary. This was a news flash, and this article has openly criticized the Dear Colleague letter and the Title IX hysteria that's been going on college campuses in this country for the past year. This is really, well, more than a year now, but this is really, really an indictment of what's been going on recently. The whole Rolling Stone University of Virginia debacle has really, really, really put this issue in the forefront in a way that no other event has. And yesterday, when the police came out and said, "Hey, we have no proof that this alleged thing ever happened. We have no proof that this happened," but they said, but this doesn't say that anything didn't happen. But they know that it didn't happen the way this person said it happened. Now, this story that this girl told was abhorrent. If it actually did happen, I can't help but think that there was some corroborating evidence because it was so hideous. But like so many of these accusations we've been hearing coming out of college campuses recently, when I say recently, I mean the past 7 years, turns out to be completely uncorroborated and in some cases proven to be false. Many cases, as in the Duke lacrosse case and in Hofstra. But here, we don't know yet. I think the police are just, well, they've, quote, suspended the investigation because basically they don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. They don't want to waste any more money. And beyond that, there's just been so much conjecture within media circles themselves. We're not just talking about men's rights blogs or whatnot, and some right-wing like conspiracy theorist blogs, but in the mainstream media itself saying, listen, there's a problem here. We have a problem with this Title IX hysteria bullcrap. We have a problem with the way the media has been reporting this kind of stuff. And we have a problem with the Title IX hysteria that's going on. We have a problem with the
I do want to put a couple things out there concerning this, okay?
Okay.
There's also another spin that's being put on this. All right, get ready for this. This
Okay.
is a very, very. I'm going to state what other people are saying. This is a very, very bad thing that happened, and it detracts from our understanding of rape culture and our eradication of it. This is how feminists are spinning this. Like, oh no, this is so horrible, but we're going to have to, do something in order to make it more palatable for, rape culture to be eradicated. Do you understand what I'm saying?
If I understand what you're getting at, you're saying that this whole like false reporting of rape is just proof of rape culture. Therefore, we must get rid of rape culture and do all these things.
No, I mean what they're saying is they're putting out the canard. Well, this makes it horrible because that 1 in 5 stat is still there, and now we've got even less of a chance of being believed. That type of thing.
Well, but the thing is, like, sure, you see reports like that, but what I'm seeing is there's a real between Rolling Stone saying there's going to be a review of our editorial policy, and between USA Today openly saying, hey, look, there's clearly a problem with this whole Dear Colleague letter thing, putting colleges between a rock and a hard place and making them want to prosecute any claim of sexual misconduct, no matter how outrageous or how unfounded. That's what I'm seeing in this particular case. Now, that's not to say that feminists are not going to try to co-opt what's going on with these new revelations in the media. They
are doing some serious damage control right now.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And I think that what's happening now is, well, what I would like to think is what's happening now is that people are starting to see, hey, wait a minute, this is damage control what they're doing here. This is like, these people really are scared to death that the truth is coming out about their dirty little secret about rape culture and how much money they're raking in from this, and how much political power they're gaining from this whole idea of the 1 in 5 statistic. And rape culture, and all these crazy things they've been talking about for decades now, while they're still, like, just now, well, I say just now, I mean the past 10 years, raking lots of money from it, it seems to me that people are just in the press, even in the mainstream, are now just starting to really think about, hey, this could be really wrong. This could be a really huge deal that we're talking about here. These people actually could be the scam artists that, heaven forbid, men's rights activists have been saying they are for the past 20 years. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying right now with this.
That's about it.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, on to our next story. I mean, I just think it's a really important development that happened yesterday because so many people covered it. It was this huge thing where the police actually got up and said, hey, listen, there's no corroborating evidence from this. And this is something that people have been waiting on for months now. People have been predicting for months now. And still they said, well, it doesn't mean that anything didn't happen. It just means what this person said happened didn't happen. And that's what I get from it. But I think, yeah, can you imagine?
No, I'm there, man. I'm there. I'm listening. I'm listening to this and scratching my head and going, what the fuck?
Yeah, but I really do believe that the press is just, that the mainstream media, whoever that is getting to the point where they can no longer deny that we have a problem in regards to these claims of rape culture, in regards to these outrageous claims of sexual assault epidemic going on in our colleges and universities. I think that we're starting to see the worm turn, and that's my take on that particular story. So, anyway, on to our next story, and this is a wage gap story, a really good one actually. This is about nursing, coming from the New York Times. And the article is entitled, Stubborn Pay Gap is Found in Nursing. Interesting. Nursing has long been very much a female-dominated workplace, to borrow the feminist vernacular. But anyway, this is a really interesting article. It's kind of a long-winded one, but it's one worth talking about. And it was, again, published in the New York Times today. Titled, Stubborn Pay Gap is Found in Nursing by Catherine St. Louis. Male nurses make $5,100 more on average per year than female colleagues in similar positions, researchers reported on Tuesday. The new analysis, which included data on more than 290,000 registered nurses, also found that the pay gap had not narrowed within workplace settings and specialties from 1988 to 2013. The new study is the first to have measured gender disparities in pay among nurses over time. We now have pretty compelling evidence that there are pay inequalities between men and women in nursing over the past 25 years, said Deborah J. Birksdale, the director of the Doctor of Nursing Practice program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. An interesting place. Who was not involved with the new study. She was not involved with the new study. She just said something about it.
Right. Yeah.
Because
so let's see. I wonder how much of that is a mischaracterization.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting actually. This article is a mischaracterization. But I'm going to eat them up really quick in a second. Because most nurses are women. Quote: You may think women have caught up, or even might be ahead of men, but we find that's not the case, said Urkel Munich, the lead author of the new study, which was published in the JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medicine Association, I think so it's called, an assistant professional of social behavioral sciences at the School of Nursing of the University of California, San Francisco. The research team which also included experts at the Yale School of Public Health and Vanderbilt University Medical Center, used data from two surveys. One provided a trove of employment information, like whether nurses worked in hospital or ambulatory settings and the number of years since graduation. But the National Sample Survey of Registered Nurses was discontinued in 2008. Okay, let's remember that. The researchers also relied on census data for information on earnings, finding that gap exists, quote, exists and persists in a second nationally representative data set, Dr. Munich said. I'm sorry, Munch. M-U-E-N-C-H. So I'm going to say Munch. The gap varied across specialties, Dr. Munch and her colleagues found. Here we go. Male cardiology nurses were paid more per year than female colleagues by roughly $6,000 a year on average. By contrast, male nurses in chronic care focused on managing conditions like diabetes or asthma made roughly $3,800 more than women per year in those specialties.
Was that factoring in things like time off and stuff like that?
This is where it gets interesting. They don't mention this in the article, and I'm going to read the rest of the article not too much longer. But no, they don't factor in overtime or time taken off or the type. And this is what I wanted to emphasize here. Here we're talking about specific types of nursing. The world of nursing varies tremendously. There's cardio, there's acute care, which means that you have to get up and go at any given time of the night when you're called. Or you might have to spend long hours in the emergency room, which is totally different from chronic care like diabetes, where basically you can predict that this patient is going to have their catheter changed or that their feet are going to have to be scrubbed or something like that. This shows that men are more attracted to certain niches that earn them more money, or in which they can claim more overtime or be in a position where they have more leverage to be in more demand, like in cardiology, rather than chronic care, like diabetes or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to continue to read the article. This new analysis found that the pay disparity greatest amongst nurse anesthesiasts. About 40% are men. They are paid $17,290 more on average per year than female anesthesists. Okay, that's important. I'm going to get back to it later. The study did not address reasons underpinning the persistent gap. Okay, I'm going to read that again. The study did not address reasons underpinning the persistent gap. There could be several reasons, Dr. Munch said. Men may be better negotiators, for instance, or perhaps women more often leave the workforce to raise children. Women may have a tougher time getting promoted, she said, for those reasons, even though specifically the study did not address reasons for the underpinning persistent gap in pay. This person, Dr. Munch, said men may be better negotiators, or women often leave the workforce to raise children. Women have a tougher time getting promoted because of those reasons. She said that. Quote, a workplace may offer a bit more to the men in order to diversify, said Diana Mason, a professor of nursing at Hunter College of the City University of New York and former editor of the American Journal of Nursing. Still, it is possible that women earn less because of, quote, lingering bias, that a man is more of an expert because he is a man, she said. Amanda Anderson, who has been a critical care nurse for 7 years, currently works for Mount Sinai Beth Israel Hospital in Manhattan, where nurses are unionized. But she has also worked for other hospitals where nurses are not part of a union. Quote, I was surprised to read this study because every time I've changed jobs or gotten an increase in pay, it had to do with my own education or certification, she said. Miss Anderson, who recently became a nurse supervisor, said that this has a bedside said that as a bedside nurse, she never thought to ask for a salary increase at any of the 4 other hospitals she worked at. She said she had thought nursing salaries were, quote, immune to a gender gap. Quote, the fact that there is a gender discrepancy even with a system that seems so regimented and some of the time has a labor component is shocking, she said. Okay, again, contradiction of like logic right there. National Nurses United, the country's largest union for registered nurses with 185,000 members, estimates that only about 20% of the more than 1.6 million nurses nationwide who work in hospitals are unionized. Amazing how they're going towards the union thing with this. Really interesting. Dr. Mason said the new analysis was an opportunity for chief nurse officers to ask their employers for wage data by gender for employees in equal positions with comparable experience in order to root out bias in pay. Peter McMenamin, a health economist and spokesman for American Nurse Associations, commended the study. Quote, the folks who did the study are well qualified and they have lots of data, he said, but my main hesitance in terms of statistics is they have fewer men. Only 7 to 10, here we go. Only 7 to 10% of nurses are male, he acknowledged. But with a smaller sample, he said, quote, the reliability of the answers is less robust. You can't say this is all a statistical fluke, he added. It's not, but there are different things that could explain some of this challenge. Next, the researchers aim to focus on explanations for earning gaps in nursing. Now, here's the deal. Not once has this article focused on overtime. My mom was a nurse for 40 years, and she worked overtime, a lot of overtime, and she made a lot more money than her other colleagues did, whether they be male or female. Most female nurses simply do not work that much overtime. They don't. Male nurses do. Why? Because male nurses like to make money. And so do female nurses, but on average, male nurses, like male workers of any stripe, like making money more than their female colleagues. That's why they work more overtime. That's why they're willing to commute longer hours. That's why they're willing to relocate. That's why they take fewer sick days. That's why they take fewer personal days. What do we see female nurses do? Well, they take days off for family things and stuff like that, which is great. But what you're observing, when you observe a pay gap between men and women, no matter what field, I would say overall, what you're observing is women exercising choices that men really don't have. And this final statistic that says only about around 7 to 10% of nurses are male, but within this small percentage of this population, you see this huge, well, not huge, but a real discrepancy in pay, tells you that this 7 to 10% is doing something completely different than the rest. It's not just that they're male. It's because they're behaving differently. That's my and this whole thing, and I knew this was going to happen with the healthcare professions, because like the healthcare profession has been dominated by female workers for a very long time now. But now that more and more men are getting into the nursing field, this was bound to happen. And the first men that were going to go into the nursing field were going to be the guys that were going to go spank it. These were the guys that were going to go in, and they were going to make the most out of it. And that's what these guys are doing. It's just a small percentage of the nursing field that's comprised of male nurses. But these guys are really, really taking it by the balls, so to speak. And they're making something of themselves. Whereas women in the nursing field have not had to prove themselves in this way in a very long time. And now they got these guys who are gung-ho, who are willing to work harder and spend more overtime and do the kinds of jobs that most women don't want to do, like cardiology and acute care and anesthesiology, which carries a very heavy burden of responsibility. So I think that this is just showing that men and women have completely different proclivities when it comes to work. And this is the reason for the pay gap. And that's kind of one of the, I saw this article today and I thought to myself, this is a very interesting discussion piece. So what do you think about that, James?
I think everything you said is sexist as hell. Sexist as hell, man. Yeah, that's...
Christ.
No.
men, they work more overtime than women? God, sexist bastards. Man, they don't want to spend more time at home. No, they don't want to do that. I'm not sexist when I say that. No.
Well, there it is, man. I don't know any other way to. I don't know any other way to express what's already been expressed.
Yeah, right. Well, it is what it is. But that's like, I saw that article and I was like, well, and I knew that an article like that was coming down the pike because what's happening is now there's this, with the aging population, the healthcare field is going to expand. And more men are going to say, hey, there's money being made in wiping people's asses, or changing people's colonoscopy bags, or cleaning someone's catheter, or
picking up that 300-pound individual and moving them to another bed.
To another bed and cleaning their bed sores. Fine, yeah. Hey, you're going to pay me $30 an hour to do that? Heck yeah. Oh, you're going to pay me what? $45 an hour? Overtime? Yeah, double time, $60 an hour. I'll do that. Yeah. And men, and it's true. It's true. This is absolutely true. Men are much more willing to do that. They're much more willing to work those really terrible hours and the much more dangerous jobs, like taking care of highly contagious patients, like patients with strains of TB that are hard to treat with antibiotics, or AIDS patients, or something like that. A man is much more likely to put himself at risk to make himself an extra dollar than are women. There's no doubt that a guy is going to be first in line for a job that pays more money, that has higher risk than a woman is. And nursing is a perfect example of that. Perfect example of that. So, anyway.
Now we'll see how that rolls over the next 15 years, man.
Yeah, well, the trend's gonna increase. You're gonna see more and more, and then pretty soon, you might see articles saying that the patriarchy is trying to take over nursing. Because oh my God, the nursing field is becoming like 50%. Now, what are we gonna do? I really think you're going to start seeing that.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, totally. Did you have any stories you wanted to cover, James?
Well, yeah. If
you didn't, then maybe I did.
I've got one here. It's an interesting little thing. Neil Linden actually managed to get an article published in the Telegraph. For those of you who do not know who Neil Linden is, he wrote some rather controversial anti-feminist pieces back in the 90s and was pretty much drummed out of his career as a result. And it's only been recently that he's been able to put out more pieces. You'll see some of his work in like the Daily Mail, which a lot of people call a rag mag. But here I think is the first article I've seen him really put out in The Guardian. Let me take a look at his history. Oh, he's got a few others. But yeah, what do you know? He does have a few others. So yeah, I would definitely suggest going to check out Neil Linden's articles on the Telegraph and on the Daily Mail. But here we've got an article that came out not long ago. This looks like today. It's called "Why Do We Believe Such Terrible Things About Men That Can't Be True?" And what he does is he actually takes a look at some of the statistics involved with things like domestic violence. Okay. So here we go. Let's see. This week, David Remnick, editor of the August Oregon and one of the most gifted journalists writing in English today, takes leave of his Olympian intellect by credulously repeating figures from the UN which claim that more than 1 in 3 of all women is subject to sexual violence. Last month, a report in The Independent claimed that, quote, femicide has been identified globally as a leading cause of premature death for women, and called for increasing awareness and understanding of male violence. Okay, so killing women, an act they're saying is committed by men, is a leading cause of premature death. This is coming out from The Independent, which is not a small magazine. Okay? So he goes into breaking down the claims. He says if we are told that 1 in 4 people will die of cancer, we don't really have trouble believing it, because most adults have a direct personal experience with the truth of that claim. Likewise, anyone who has reached the age of 40 plus won't find it all hard to believe, as we are told that 1 in 10 people will get into serious personal difficulties with alcohol. Once again, because we're able to look around and actually verify that type of evidence. But hearing that femicide is the leading cause of premature death as a global phenomenon, we look around, we can almost literally laugh it off. Even looking at experiences in third world countries, we can almost laugh that off. Women are more likely to be killed falling off a toilet.
Right. Or like, accidentally being strangled by a coat hanger when they're hanging something up. Then
exactly. Yeah. I mean, this, but here we have this terrible statistic that's once again coming to the front, and all it's going to do is drive all these NGOs directly to the UN to scream for money, or to the Council for the European Union and scream for money and say, oh my God, look at this horrible statistic, and nobody's going to question it, because everybody has a buck to make and everybody has a vote to gain.
Yep.
By supporting it.
Right.
This is what we call building a false enemy at the gates, folks. You see it all the time. All the time. And Neil Linden does a very good job in this article of breaking that down.
Definitely good. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, as always, if you can, in a very cynical way, make it to where you can convince someone to give you money in order for you to save the lives of women and children, you'll never go broke. You'll never go broke, and you don't have to do what you say you're going to do, because no one's going to question you or hold you accountable for doing it. And this is the story of feminism. No one is going to question you or hold you accountable for doing what you say you're going to do, or for the money they give you, right, simply because you are doing so in the name of women and or children. And right, it's an old formula that has worked for a long time, that so many people have become outrageously wealthy from. It's crazy.
Let's take a look at one of these. The whole 1 in 3 women.
Yep.
Okay. So once again, taking this from a paragraph in the article, personal observations borne out by official statistics An overview of sexual offending in England and Wales, published by the Ministry of Justice, Home Office, and the Office for National Statistics in January of 2013. This is in England, okay? Reported that 2.5% of females and 0.4% of males said they had been a victim of a sexual offense, including attempts, in the previous 12 months. These experiences span the full spectrum of sexual offenses, ranging from the most serious offense of rape and sexual assault to other sexual offenses like indecent exposure and unwanted touching. The vast majority of incidents reported by the respondents to the survey fell into the sexual offenses category. So 2.5%. That's about 1 in 40 women. We can, maybe. As a phenomenon, of course, it lies outside of Mr. Linden's personal experience. He's willing to take the figure on trust. So the figures for the UK would be broadly similar in comparable countries whose populations might add up to, say, a third of the world's population, in which case the UN's claim that 1 in 3 women has suffered sexual violence has to be bullshit. Because think of the number of women that would be suffering from sexual violence in non-comparable countries. I can't imagine that dividing line being there and any form of civilization working whatsoever inside of countries that are not comparable to a place like England, like Saudi Arabia,
Right.
or Iraq,
Right.
or Turkey, or Russia, which means 110% of those women would have to be raped, essentially.
Right. Essentially,
Right.
yeah.
And we already know the offense of rape is punished very harshly in some of those
Sure.
countries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like there isn't some kind of enforcement of law.
Well, like in any country worth being called a country, there's a severe penalty for raping a woman, and this like completely negates the idea of rape culture to any extent.
Right.
I mean, the whole idea that we live in a culture where rape is pervasive and that it's condoned, absurd. Believe
Absolutely. Right.
Oh.
Well, I did want to touch on that article, folks. I would suggest you go to the low bar and actually read the whole thing. I think you'll find it very interesting.
James, I wanted to ask before I went over my last story, because we're not going to have a very long show tonight, but I did want to talk about something that Janet Bloomfield was generous to send over to us.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the top 20 headlines that were a few reviews. I'm sorry, what was the title of the article? Crap.
You may have to send me that file again because I can't. It refused to pull down for me.
Okay, but I sent it to you via Skype, right?
Yep. So send it to me again if you can,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't get hold of it. It refused to pull for me.
It's MP4.
In the meantime, while Robert is doing that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about once again a double standard in sentencing, or disparity in how we treat women when it comes to matters of law as compared to men. Okay?
Alrighty.
Okay, Queensland mum who shared explicit photos of her 12-year-old daughter avoids jail again. It's a short blurb, so I'm just going to read it out. A Queensland woman who sent explicit photos of her young daughters to a lover, has again avoided jail after an appeal of her sentence. The woman was 41 when she handed a 3-year suspended sentence in probation last year for sending up to 19 of her 12-year-old daughter, 19 photos of her 12-year-old daughter, to a man with whom she was having an affair. Earlier this month, the Queensland Attorney General Gerald Bledgie appealed for a harsher sentence. The Court of Appeal upheld on Tuesday the sentencing judge's decision not to send the woman to jail, but extended her suspended sentence from 3 years to 5. The sentence is only served if the woman reoffends. The mother, a child care worker who can't be named for legal reasons, has previously served a year behind bars for stealing $63,000 from a center where she worked. The judge who originally sentenced her decided it would be counterproductive to her rehabilitation to send her back to jail. Court of Appeal Justice Catherine Holmes said in a written judgment on Tuesday it was open to the judge to have taken into account the woman's particular circumstances. And the two other Federal Court of Appeal judges agreed.
And what were the particular circumstances?
I guess she was under some kind of rehabilitation or something.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Whatever her rehabilitation was, well, obviously it wasn't working.
Right.
I mean, come on. No jail time?
Yeah.
For a
seriously.
woman who essentially sent child porn over to someone she was having an affair with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No jail time.
Alrighty. Back to a more amusing news story. And James, I'm downloading that file right now to you.
Yeah,
that's a great file, by the way.
I'm trying to pull it. I really am. It says it's having trouble.
I believe you are. But are you downloading it now? Are you getting it?
I'm trying to pull it, and it keeps. I've got 5.1 megabytes of it so far, and it's crapping out on me. It might have to wait till next time.
We'll see. That's a good one. It's a good one. maybe I'll look at the. We'll look at the article itself if we can't get it up, because it's really worth talking about. It'll be a lot of fun, trust me. Anyway, this is coming from our friends in the New York Post, who oftentimes give us some very entertaining material. This is by Julia Marsh and Laura Italiano, and this came out on March 20th, 2015, just a few days ago. It's entitled, "Wife Seeks More Alimony Over Ex's New Look-alike Girlfriend." This is so awesome. This is so cool. A spurned wife is squeezing her wealthy investment fund husband for millions in additional alimony. A revenge premium for dumping her in favor of a Manhattan woman who is a virtual carbon copy of herself, minus 15 years, the Post has learned. Quote, "Her social circle is telling her that the new girlfriend is a new version of you," one intimate wife of Sidney Davis said about portfolio manager Andrew Davis' paramour, Catherine Pickett. Andrew is now private jetting the younger blonde around to the same haunts in Taos, New Mexico, and Stratton Mountain, Vermont, that he used to enjoy with his older blonde wife, the insider said, adding, quote, "The friends are all buzzing about that." Davis selected boss Andrew Davis, his I'm sorry, Davis selected boss Andrew Davis is a great grandson of New York investor Shelby Cullum Davis and was married for 18 years to Sydney before trading her in for a younger model. Before 39-year-old Catherine Pickett came along, the divorce had been chugging along amicably in a courthouse in Santa Fe, where the Davises now live separate mansions. Okay, this is it. Here we go. I'm going to read this paragraph again. Before 39-year-old Catherine Pickett came along, the divorce had been chugging along amicably in a courthouse in Santa Fe, where the Davises now live in separate mansions, sharing custody of their teen son and daughter, according to court papers. Okay, so the divorce is already well underway before this, quote, new woman came along. This woman had already gotten like a mansion, had already gotten agreements to get alimony and all this, but all of a sudden this new, quote, look-alike woman comes along, and now she's all pissed, okay? So that's what this comes down to now. Okay, now Andrew, 51, and Sydney, 54, had agreed that $5 million would hold the $5 million. $5 million would hold the wife over for a year or so until the property, 2 homes in Santa Fe, a vacation home and house, and a summer retreat in exclusive Seal Harbor, Maine, could be divided, and a final support figure said. Paper said. $5 million. Jesus. Then along came hubby's new girlfriend, Pickett, a former investment banker who runs an Upper East Side printing boutique. Jesus Christ, this is crazy. Now that $5 million isn't looking like nearly enough, friends of Sydney told the Post. Now that $5 million isn't looking like nearly enough, friends of Sydney told the Post. So she hired top New York divorce lawyer Bernard Clare, who has put Andrew on notice that the $5 million, quote, interim settlement paid in September is no longer sufficient. Except for age, women have a lot in common. Both are tall, athletic blondes. Both hold finance degrees from good schools. The younger from Harvard, the elder from Georgetown. And both have a thing for multimillionaire money men. In 2012, Pickett filed for divorce from Manhattan investment big Brett Bickett, son of former Islanders owner John Pickett. Former Islanders owner John Pickett. Quote, the parties have significant income, which averaged over $50 million a year from 2004 through 2013, the new papers say. During that period, their expenses averaged between $8 million to $10 million a year, papers say. Sydney is expected to demand half of that amount, between $4 and $5 million a year, for the duration of what will now be a lengthy divorce. Lawyers for both sides declined to comment. Jesus Christ. So, if your hubby divorces you, or you divorce your hubby, okay, there's like some amicable settlement going on between custody of the kids, and you get a mansion and $5 million. Oh, but his new girlfriend looks a lot like you. You can sue for more money because apparently the way you look is kind of like a brand or something like that. You know? Is that? I mean, I don't understand. What's that all about? Is that really a reason to sue for more money? Can you actually get more money from someone because your ex is dating somebody that looks like you looked 15 years ago?
I guess so.
I guess so. Apparently this is going to happen. This is happening right now.
I'm surprised that this is
Pretty
even
insane.
being entertained in a court of law.
Oh, well, I mean, anything to get money out of people. That's what this whole like divorce game's all become about. If you can make it to where lawyers can make money off of it, anything is possible. Because lawyers become judges someday and they pay off favors to their underling lawyers by giving outrageous divorce settlements to said lawyers. The entire divorce racket is just completely out of control now. Completely out of control. But you look at these. I mean, you look at these pictures of these two girls. One's a 54-year-old woman. The other's a 39-year-old woman. They kind of both look the same, but basically they're just both tall blondes. I mean, seriously? What? I mean, how ubiquitous is the tall blonde nowadays? You see them everywhere. Is that something you can sue someone else for being or wanting? I don't understand. Don't get it. But anyway, I saw that. I had to share that just to let everybody know that yes, if you're a divorcing woman, you can get more money for just about anything, including your ex-husband's new girlfriend's looks. You can actually get money for that. Pretty cray-cray.
That's amazing. Oh, God. Oh, man. Well, give me just a second here. Let me... Oh, it looks like it's still pulling that file down, man. Good
25 seconds. I just love this because Janet was actually really nice to record for us, and I asked her to record it for us so we can play it on the air. I hope we can play it because it's a great article, and I wanted to talk about it because it's really true.
It's getting there.
Actually, something I've been for quite some time is that if you took a feminist theory class 101 paper written by an undergraduate on patriarchy theory, you could have something where if you replace the word men with the Jews, or man with the Jew, or the word patriarchy with the worldwide Jewish conspiracy, and the word woman with the pure Aryan race, then you would have something that could have been written by Joseph Goebbels in 1935. I tell this to people all the time. They don't believe me, but it's really true. It's really true. And Janet actually she wrote this article like
I've got some very bad news for you here.
What's going on?
Well, I got the file,
Mm-hmm.
but when I play it, it is so low, I can't hear anything.
Mm.
Yeah, so we'll try this again next week, folks. I'll have to work on the file itself and pull the audio up for everyone.
Okay. Well, we can do it next week, or
in the meantime, found something on Reddit that was rather interesting. It's an example of an interesting double standard here. Amazon, this is coming out of Sky News, Amazon was criticized over the sale of Slap Her mugs. So the web retailing giant actually pulled the controversial merchandise, and what it looks like is a black mug with a little crown on it. Says, "Don't keep calm, slap that bitch hard." Okay? They've pulled the items. Other sellers on international sites are still offering the product. Of course, everyone is up in arms about that. It was priced at about $5.99 by at least 2 sellers on the retail site. And they were described as an ideal special gift, or you can just keep the mug yourself. Now, feminist writer Kate Smurthwaite told Sky News, "We have had this problem before with Amazon. They have sold things with horribly inappropriate, violence-encouraging slogans. We've made a fuss, and they've dealt with it and taken it down. I just don't understand why they haven't put a process in place that before these things go live, there's a button that says, 'Hold on, we need to check. Let's make sure that this is an appropriate thing to be selling.'" And the story sparked an immediate backlash on Twitter, with one post stating, "Shame on you, Amazon, for accepting the products in the first place." Lady of Lauren tweeted, "This is why we need feminism." Linda B said in a post, "Despicable that Amazon accepted them to sell, but who makes the trash?" And Catherine Cole said,
Well, there are some things that should never make a company money.
And Imran said, Amazon UK, oh dear, massive at fail. After removing the items from sale, Amazon said in a statement to Sky News, the product to which you refer is not available at amazon.co.uk. And of course, there's been previous controversy over offering rape t-shirts and hit her tops, which they were forced to take down after a public backlash, and it later emerged that the hit her t-shirts had remained for sale on some international Amazon sites, including Germany. And on Saturday, Amazon.com was offering phone cases for sale with the slogan, "Don't keep calm, slap that bitch hard." The Amazon UK website lists details of prohibited items, which include products that promote or glorify hatred, violence, racial, sexual, or religious intolerance, or promote organizations with such views. And they typically charge companies 7% of the price, postage, and any taxes to list and sell items through its website. Interesting that. Especially considering that on the same Amazon.co.uk site, guess what we have? The entire line of "Boys Are Stupid, Throw Rocks at Them." That's right, folks. Stupid fucking feminists come along and get into people's business, private business, and proceed to bitch and moan and complain over "Don't keep calm, slap that bitch hard" to a site that still sells "Boys Are Stupid, Throw Rocks at Them." What do you think, Robert?
Not so entirely unbelievable, I would think.
This is amazing, man.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's really. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. But when you think about it, it's really not amazing. This is the kind of shit that's been going on for a long time. You know, this business where it's okay for it's entirely okay for misandrous, incredibly visceral, caustic misandrous material to be distributed into the T-shirt market or the coffee mug market or the coffee mug holder market or the doormat market, for that matter. But anytime somebody might want to have some kind of equivalent. Well, I mean, how bad was it?
The mug?
Yeah,
It was a simple black mug that had the words on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't like they were showing some poor little boy running away from a bunch of rocks.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Or some guy. Yeah. Some poor little boy with like a black eye and a couple stitches in his head.
Yeah. You know how it is.
Yeah. Sure. When you're a little boy, you're just you drool and girls.
Yeah. You're just begging to have rocks thrown at you, right?
That's right. Because you're a boy.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's okay. God. Well, that pretty much covers all but one story that I've got left that I want to share with everybody. And this is coming from Fire. This is pretty much the best for last as far as my stories are concerned. Those of you who don't know who Fire is, they are the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education. I pay very close attention to a lot of what they put out and a lot of the cases that they take on. They've done some wonderful work with universities across the U.S. The proposed Victim and Survival Bill of Rights further jeopardizes New York students' due process rights. The New York's proposed budget for 2015 to 16 reportedly contains provisions that should concern due process advocates, namely the codification of an affirmative consent standard for college students engaged in sexual activity and a victim and survivor Bill of Rights that appears to preclude accused students from being presumed innocent until proven guilty. Brooklyn College professor Casey Johnson details several problems with the Bill of Rights in a column for Minding the Campus, posted yesterday. Susan Kruth is the author of this article, and so when I say the word I am referencing her. I reported on the State University of New York system's adoption of the affirmative consent standard last October, and Governor Andrew Cuomo announced the adoption of a sexual violence victim survivor Bill of Rights for those schools in December. If similar mandates are passed within the state budget, colleges and universities across the state will be governed by the same standards that already jeopardize the due process rights of students in the state of university New York system. As with California's affirmative consent law, these standards fails to clearly articulate what is required of students about to engage in sexual activity. Johnson notes, for example, that under New York's standard, consent must be informed, and asks what's the difference between an informed and an uninformed agreement. The vagueness of this language makes it almost impossible for an accused student to defend himself. A common sense hardly guides the question of what students must be informed about before consenting to sex. Ohio State University, for example, requires both parties to agree regarding the who, what, when, where, and why, and how this sexual activity will take place. And the question is, the why? Who, what, when, where, and why? Why are we gonna fuck again? God.
Why are we doing this?
Why am I gonna put my dick in you?
Yeah, what is this?
What is? Yeah.
I would think that would be pretty unattractive if I were a woman, you know, and some guy said, listen, I need to understand, I need you to explain to me why I'm going to put my dick in. You need to put this in writing. Why I should.
And just
because if you don't do this, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put my dick in.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, just that way. What the curiosity now? It's legal.
Does this cover oral and anal as well?
Yeah.
Why do you want my dick in your ass?
Yeah. We need to articulate these things now, because I could be in some legal danger if we don't. Serious fucking business, goddammit.
Johnson also points to a provision of the mandate regarding the presumption of innocence, and quoting Johnson here, then there's right of the proposed Bill of Rights be free from any suggestion that the victim/survivor at this stage of the process is at fault when these crimes and violations have occurred. Note the words missing, alleged, okay? Or should have acted in a different manner to avoid such a crime. So imagine how an accused student could possibly defend himself, given that the accuser is to be given, as a matter of state law, that right. Could he suggest that the accuser actually consented to the sexual intercourse? It appears not, since this line of defense would suggest the accuser was at least partially at fault for what occurred. For someone who believes, as Cuomo apparently does, that the filing of a claim in and of itself transforms an accuser into a survivor, it makes perfect sense. For those who believe in the presumption of innocence, however, the right is horrifying. And
Right.
the uphill battle will get even steeper for students accused of sexual assault if Cuomo's proposal is adopted. Cuomo also seeks to give the accuser the right to exclude prior sexual history or past mental health history from admittance in the college disciplinary stage that determines responsibility. No state has such a broad rape shield law, and for good reason. Imagine its application to the Duke Lacrosse case. There, the prior sexual history, in Cuomo's language, of the survivor, Crystal Magnum, was vital to the defense since it provided an explanation for the only injury that she allegedly suffered, the diffuse edema of the vaginal walls. And it came out later that it was due to a prior sexual encounter that she had had. And if a trial had occurred, the contents of Magnum's 1,000-page mental health file would have been critical for the defense to explain her actions. But according to Cuomo, if Magnum made her allegations on a New York college campus, public or private, this vital exculpatory evidence would have been banned. Johnson's concerns about the presumption of guilt and the potential exclusion of exculpatory evidence in campus sexual assault hearings should be considered in full. And for that, folks, I apologize. I did not give anybody the link for that Minding the Campus article. But if you go to the website Minding the Campus, look for the article Cuomo Joins the No Due Process Club, written by Casey Johnson, and read that. So there we go, folks. What do you think, Robert?
Well, I think that it's just another example of this idea that if you take away liberties in higher education, it's a pilot to take away civil liberties in normal life with everybody. Mm. It's yet another expansion. They're getting the state of New York involved in this, and it's what this whole Title IX hysteria was designed to be in the first place. A lot of people think this whole thing that's going on in higher education has it's just a little fluke that's going on. It's not. There's a real agenda behind this whole thing, and it is, first of all, to, within the halls of academia, take away due process for those accused of anything, so we can take away due process for everybody everywhere, because due process is the enemy of statism. It's the line,
right,
that protects the individual from the state. And so now we're seeing this happening in New York. It's no surprise that these people had this in mind all along.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. They're trying to now, and I think what's happening is that they see what's going on at the University of Virginia, and people are questioning this whole thing. What they're doing is now they're trying to fast track this legislatively to make this their reality. And I think they're going to fail eventually. That's what I think.
They may well. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. I mean,
well, that was a very interesting show, Robert. Do we want to call it here, or did you have anything else to add?
We don't have anything else to add, and we don't have visitors. I think this is going to be like the way of things in the future, or shorter shows, unless we have guests, which we did not have tonight, unfortunately. If you would like to be a guest on the O'Hara News and Editorial, please let us know. We've had a dearth of guests lately, as I'm sure you all have noticed. If you got something interesting to say, let us know. We'll get you on the show. But other than that, I think it was a pretty good show tonight. Next week, we'll feature Janet Bloomfield's piece on the 20 feminist headlines. Where if it was, you could switch it with the word men with the word Jews, then it would be, basically anti-Semitic. That was a great article. Too bad we couldn't feature it tonight, but we will next time. Maybe we'll have Janet on next week. I don't know. But it was a good show.
Well, my Flash Player plugin has locked up on me.
Okay.
Which means we can go ahead and call the show, and I will end the broadcast when I can. Robert, all you got to do is just, I think I got it back. Or maybe not.
What do I got to do?
I think all you've got to do is log out, man.
Okay, I'll leave it thanks. Everybody,
Folks, yeah,
take, yeah, take the red pill, everybody. Another sloppy but somewhat good show for the UR News and Editorial. James, I'll see you next week. All right.
see you later, Robert.